All right, folks, this is the Chap Dev team. Today we're doing a quick and dirty deep dive on the end of year reports, and then we'll highlight some of the other reporting that may have kind of crawled up on you here in the last couple of months. We're recording this in April, but of course you may be seeing this slightly different timelines, just depending on when your school is out. So we're starting here on the home page of Tau Bate Pi, and then under the Collegiate Chapter reporting. This is a great resource that you can use to kind of sculpt how you're going to do the workload. And then, of course, you can assign tasks or delegate as is appropriate. Some of the bigger chapters have a lot of work to do all of the different project reports. And it's really smart to try and get those done along the way, but also to split up the effort so that nobody has to do too much. The end of year reports, like I said, are what we're going to highlight today, but I'll do a couple quick mentions of the 990 report and then the convention reports as well. All of these reports, whatever I just mentioned, is going to be available through our eligibility website. And that's what I call it, but it's not actually called the eligibility website. But I always search TBP Elig, and that should bring you to the homepage of a given year. And so this homepage should look something like this. This is kind of your front and center summary of what's going on. You can see if you have two election seasons, two initiation seasons, you'll have two different sets filled in. If you just have one, like this chapter, no worries. You'll just have the one in usually the spring. And then, of course, each one of these reports are specific to the election and the initiation process. I think we've had other chapter chats that are kind of more specifically going into detail there. So feel free to look back at our history or reach out if you have any questions. But there's definitely some good resources on this same website, this officer reports, and then underneath the initiation process. So the last section on this homepage here on the eligibility website is kind of the quick and dirty of the most important reports of the year. And then we say they're the most important just because they're the most critical to us getting our all of our understanding of what's going on. So we have, starting kind of with the highly regarded, easiest to fill out, the IRS 990. That process is going to be really easy, but of course it takes you to some summary details, and then the 990 website is linked here, and that actually is a government website that you fill out. These specific dates are going to be dependent on your chapter and when it was founded. The other ones that are kind of critical from a financial perspective are going to be the convention expense report. That's always going to be just after convention. They usually choose a day that's, I want to say it's about 3 weeks after the end of convention. But just keep an eye on that one. Whoever ends up going from your chapter wants to make sure they get all their paperwork in so that there's no issues with the money side of things. And then, of course, there's some fees associated with each of the initiation. Kind of wraps up our financial stuff. We'll talk next about the rest of the convention stuff. So convention credentials are actually due coming up here in June 1st for October's convention. Usually they're in October. And so it's almost 5 months ahead. So it's really important that you kind of get that as one of the vital closeout tasks, is to choose who you're going to actually send to convention. At least put in a name. If you have to change it, it's not the end of the world, but it's really important to try and figure out who is going to be available, get them on the list so that they start getting the emails. And then after the Constitution changes at convention, they send out that ratification ballot, and those are usually due somewhere in that same timeline. So it's going to be toward the end of our school year. You want to do your election, premier your ballot at any one of your meetings, and then of course you can see the outcomes of the ballots. And it's a pretty quick and easy tool. Just get some actual specific numbers from who attended and how many are there. So with that, we'll go back and kind of do a highlight of the rest of them. So that was everything except for officers and the chapter survey and the financial report. So the officer election is tied essentially to the fall information update. So that's going to be all about trying to make sure the right people who are officers for your team are able to get contacted. So you can see the election information, which is just going to summarize who was actually elected, of course. And then there's an officer signatures page, which is going to be just a PDF that you can either print out or digitally sign. And then that'll get sent back to the and get that sent back to headquarters, and then they'll get it uploaded appropriately and make sure that it's available. Both of those are going to be whenever you do your actual election process for new officers. So those officers may get elected in the fall, they may get elected in the spring, they may get elected in both. Just make sure you do it right away. Send it in. Just it's an easy peasy one. And then the other one in that same kind of realm is going to be that fall information update, which is just going to be, okay, you came back from school. What are people's new addresses or phone numbers or emails, or is this still the right contact? It's a good one to knock out essentially as soon as you get back on campus. It's easy enough to forget, but it also is really easy to knock out. The last couple here we're going to talk about today are going to be the financial report and the chapter survey. The financial report about halfway down. This is going to be kind of a summary of what money you used and have left in your accounts. A lot of chapters are going to have a very easy time going through this. Most chapters do not have a whole lot of finances, and that's 100% okay. We're a nonprofit after all. And so what you're going to want to do is you want to just fill out all this detail. I like to do it as soon as you do your 990. I think it kind of works together hand in hand, but you go ahead and you fill it out whenever it makes sense. So there are some requirements. You need to make sure that your specific chapter has details for a shipping or a mailing address, just in case there's any issues. A lot of times, as you can see here, that'll be a specific teacher or advisor's address, just because it's a more stable address. And then, of course, you can have the chief advisor's details here separately, but it's good to have somebody on campus and have somebody off campus, or have somebody on campus who's in a administrative or a faculty building versus always having residents. It just makes it a little bit cleaner and makes it clear that, of course, you're representing the school's charter. So the tax period and all this stuff is going to be changing very little on an annual basis. And like I said, for most of your chapters, you didn't make any money. You didn't expend a ton of changing hands of money. So most of this gets pretty easy. And then your chapter EIN is right here at this page. It's also in a couple other places, but that's really critical for when you're filling out that 990N form, which is the postcard file on the US government website. So go ahead and take care of that whenever you do your 990. So it's just done with, but it is due theoretically every year around June 1st. And if you're closing out a calendar year, or closing out a school year, it doesn't make too much of an impact, especially for those bigger chapters who are doing kind of 2 big initiation cycles per year. If you have any questions on those, reach out to our SAB or to our chapter. We'd love to troubleshoot any issues or any concerns you have with that. The last thing we're going to talk about as far as this homepage is the chapter survey. This process has gotten really clean over the last few years. They essentially have created a brand new web portal. So that was the old portal. Of course, you get to see the nice yellow background. Oh, not super great. But now the new web portal is going to be essentially what is a Google form. And I think we've talked about this at other meetings, but of course we always advise every officer team to do a transition program. And so if that transition program exists, you can have this as an opportunity to transition all the officer details from one team to another and use this almost as a walkthrough template. So there's a lot of good questions in here to kind of think, how do we want to present this information? And then what is important to our chapter as we move to this new team? So make sure you go ahead and use this as a template, as a guide for conversation, and then also do please document stuff. And the reason we ask that specifically, ChapDev gets a chance to look at all these details. We get a chance to kind of parse through the data, figure out what everyone is struggling with, and actually we sculpt a lot of our ChapDev chapter chats, these specific sessions, around whatever people feel like they want more detail on. So whatever you ask for does make it back to us, and we really appreciate what you put in here. So please take some time and do so. Like I said, the new system is a lot better, a lot cleaner to be doing it in this way. And like I said, it also is a good opportunity to kind of click through some of those transitions. The only other project report, or probably the only other reports are the project reports that we're going to cover today. And this is a good way to kind of look back in time to see, oh, what was a good project that we did in a given year. And so you can even go back 2018, 2019 is the first of the database. And as you get more and more recent, you're going to see more and more frequently acceptable formats for the project report. And then, of course, if you have a new project, you can also create that with this button here. Just like the last time, it's essentially just a Google form. The nice thing on these is that you can easily get all of these summaries and send those fields out to one of your team members, and your team members can then do a very quick project description, and you, the project leads, or maybe the president or the corresponding secretary, whoever, can just copy and paste directly in here. So don't reinvent the wheel on these. If you have ones from the past, if you have a report from last year's cleaning up the trash on the side of the road, just go ahead and duplicate any project that you have, bring it over, update the fields where it's appropriate, and boom. You know, if those are the same processes, or if you're doing the same thing multiple times in a year, I've heard, you know, oh, every year we do a ice cream social as soon as we get back to campus. Don't reinvent the wheel. You know, get it started. Maybe make some comments about what went well specifically this year so people can utilize it in the future. But don't feel like you need to do it from scratch. And then the last thing is, of course, you can get a chance to kind of see your entire summary and then put together a cover page. And so this becomes really helpful for all those chapters who are excelling, not just meeting expectations, but excelling those expectations. You all are well on your way to getting those project awards at convention. We love seeing them. So love seeing all these reports. They're great ideas. And this specific tool, this dashboard, is a nice way to kind of see, okay, how many have we done this year? What do we need to continue going in and submitting, finishing all these other ones? And then, of course, like I said, you can kind of group them under the cover page so that they get all slammed together in one report and submitted together at convention. So that's the big summary. Like I said, the chapter info is in a lot of different places, but the IRS information is easily findable here, along with the member lookup from your specific chapter, but also the chapter statements, initiation invoice, all those fun things, chapter statistics. These are all cool little features that all exist in here, and we highly recommend, you know, utilize these to the best of your ability so you can kind of inspire the team that is around you. So with that, we'll go ahead and we'll stop sharing, but we'll go ahead and open it up for questions from anyone. And of course, anyone who's watching this recording should absolutely reach out if you have anything else. If you have any questions for us, follow us on Instagram, and then go ahead and ask away on there, or ask us on the Discord and any other way you can get a hold of us. Thanks all.